Good morning, everyone. My name is David Julien. I'm the Secretary General for the Inter-American Organization for Higher Education, IOHE, and Executive Director for the Conference of the Americas on International Education. So please go get yourself a cup of coffee and join me for this discussion. Today, I will talk to you about our beautiful region, Latin America and the Caribbean. And you will see that here I have a cup from the College of Southern Nevada, and we'll come back with that a bit later. So for those who don't know us, IOHE is based in Montreal. So I'm talking today from the traditional territory of the Kanien'kehá:ka people, a land that served a meeting point and exchange among different nations, including the Mohawk, the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, and Abenakis. We are a network of 350 members across 28 countries, from University of Northern British Columbia all the way down to University of Magallanes and the Southern Patagonia in Chile. So it's a wide network. And first, maybe I'd like to discuss some of the geopolitical aspects of the region. Those of you who follow that region have seen this year quite a lot of movement. Brazil, for example, came back with the Lula administration, with the Labour Party coming back, a socially oriented government. So many think that and hope that maybe higher education and programs more focusing on research could potentially come back. And that's, of course, what we hope. We also had an historical change in Colombia earlier this year. For the first time, a left-oriented party took over as new government. Again, the academic sector is full of hope in terms of having greater support for our field. And other countries such as Mexico are maybe passing a delicate situation where the government has reduced the budget in investigation and research. Other countries such as Argentina are suffering from a very high devaluation of their peso. So basically, today I'd like to give a couple of tips and pointers on where should you put your efforts, how to engage with this region, and what's the Canadian kind of situation within this context. So a couple of trends when we talk about Latin America and the Caribbean, it's important to understand that even prior to SDG development or the Millennium Goals, traditionally here our teachers or our faculty are asked to split their time between teaching, research, and faculty engagement. I guess in Latin America, we could add a fourth component to that, which they call in Spanish extensión or extension, which is some kind of a community engagement. So I think that if you're looking at developing your relationships and partnerships within this region, a good way to engage is maybe to focus precisely on sustainable goals, on more developmental approach, work with the community. As a reference, earlier this year or last year, basically, we launched a call for proposal and some collaborative research grant on the SDG, and we received so many demands from that region. Many Canadian institutions were also engaged. But we really feel that there's a very strong and dynamic aspect related to these fields. So probably something to keep in mind if you're going to approach them. Another thing that we have seen during the pandemic in this region is the huge interest for virtual mobility. In Latin America and the Caribbean, many countries for almost a decade now have been wondering and asking themselves, like, if my type of students or my profile of students don't necessarily have the conditions to study abroad, they won't necessarily go and get a national grant, or they come from modest families, there's very little chances for them to, jump on an airplane and go to Canada or to Europe or wherever else. What we have seen with the pandemic is a huge appetite for virtual mobility, either through CAIE experiences or together with us with our e-movies experience. But I think this is something where they have shown a lot of creativity in the way that they are able and flexible in terms of granting access to different schools or different universities in different countries. And at the end, recognizing those credits so that they are working on a more inclusive and more equity in terms of who has access to these international opportunities. So that's also something I think you should look at. And I would not want to speak exclusively about Latin America and the Caribbean. The name of our organization is Inter-American Organization. We work with what we call Las Americas, so the Americas, North, Central, and South, and the Caribbean islands. So I think it's also something everyone kind of realized during the pandemic, and maybe even more you guys in British Columbia. There's been a lot of focus on the recent years or even decades on some of the big markets that we see in China, for example, or countries like India. However, the pandemic for one, and the geopolitics as well, which are a bit, I guess, on the bumpy road these days, I've shown that it could be a bit more fragile to work and put all your eggs in a certain basket. And we've seen some cases, I'm thinking about Australian universities that have suffered when other countries have shifted their policy. So I guess maybe it's an invitation to think about diversifying your international partners and really consider the Americas as a potential option to consolidate. And as I said, not only Latin America, we have a working group now that is looking at how we can potentially further engage bilateral Canada-US relationships. I think that although it's maybe not as, I'd say, sexy or appealing either for students or for faculty to just cross the border even by car, go to Oregon or Washington State, or for us here, drive down to New York or Boston, or even if you go all the way down to California, Florida, or some middle America states, it remains a real international experience. And they are solid partners on the academic side of things. And I think everyone now is keen to look at what can be done to further engage. And actually, I invite you to stay tuned. In the next couple of weeks or early January, we will, together with the CBIE, us, IOHE, and NAFSA, APLU, and the AIEA in the States, we will circulate a survey actually to get your opinion in terms of should we move forward as associations in the field to further engage. What would be your top priorities looking at that Canada-US bilateral relationship? So we hope that with that, and with NAFSA happening in Washington, DC, and our event happening in Nevada next year, I'll talk about that in a moment, there's definitely a potential to grow in that region and extend that, of course, to Latin America and the Caribbean. And thinking about how Canada can further engage with this region, I think maybe some of you are familiar with the ELAP program, which is the Emerging Leaders of the Americas program. That's definitely an asset where, and just recently, I know there was a delegation in BC, maybe some of you hosted this delegation. So basically, ELAP allows leaders identified in different Latin American and Caribbean universities to tour Canada. It is supported by Global Affairs Canada, coordinated by the CBIE. And actually to get the chance to develop these one-on-one relationships with the region. Of course, us as an organization with our 350 members, that's what we engage. We try to pair and match and work on different projects with our neighbors and countries from the region. And I guess I would make a special invitation to look at your calendar for next year and look out for the 8th edition of CAIE, the Conference of the Americas on International Education. This is an Edu-Canada signature event together with API, NAFSA, EAIE, and CAIE. We hosted the conference twice in Canada, Calgary and Montreal. We hosted in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Quito, Ecuador, Bogota, Colombia, Santiago de Chile, and Monterrey, Mexico. And now for the first time, hence my cup from the College of Southern Nevada, we're going to Las Vegas. Some of you might wonder, why Vegas? This is not your traditional academic city. Some of you will think of maybe more California or Texas or Arizona as leading institutions and so on. But actually, and there's much more than a party town and casinos. And I know Randolph for sure will want to be with us and ensure that he improves his poker game. However, the universities and colleges we partner with, and that's University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV, UNR, University of Nevada, Reno, College of Southern Nevada here, Rocky Meadows Community College, Nevada State College. They really want to show what's happening in the region beyond this industry. There's tons of research that's happening, for example, in cybersecurity, in mining with gold extraction. Now Panasonic and Tesla are setting up plants there because they have lithium extraction, and they're looking at the whole cycle from extraction, marketing, production, and recycling. So basically from cradle to crave. I can't remember the expression. But anyways, and that's what they want to showcase. We'll be hosting the event at the Mirage. This is one of the MGM properties, and MGM has the largest solar plant of the entire state, which is basically as big as 6 football fields of pure solar plants. So they want to, from day one, show us what's happening in this region, show us the development, and show us what's happening in terms of how they can cope with climate change, how they can develop solutions for renewable energies, more efficient use of water. So if your universities are engaged with these fields, make sure you save the date. It's November 6, 7, and 8, 2023. We just released the call for proposals early November this year. So have a look at the website. It's open. So if you want to speak at the event and be part of the program, send us your proposal, and we'll ensure that you have a speaking role so you can share what you're doing. And basically, teaming up with this region, again, as a potential solution to diversify your efforts in this beautiful region. So take your Latino heart out of British Columbia, come down to the States. Although we'll be in the US, there will be delegations from Mexico, from Brazil, from Colombia, from Argentina, from Costa Rica, and all countries of the region. So this is a unique opportunity to engage. So voila, au revoir, see you soon, I hope, and we'll be in touch.